My apologies. I actually never started the recording. That was just that it was running. Yeah. So, okay. Good thing we only on slide 3. Okay. So, yeah, make sure that whatever skill it is you're going to have them do, that they have some competence and understanding of what that skill is going to be. When we first come out and we have a group of new people, whether they're you guys when we come to your facility or when we get people in the academies, you know, the first conversation we're going to have with them on the drill ground is, tell me how you're going to do this skill. What do you anticipate is going to happen? Walk me through, you know, how to fix your saw when it chokes out. And we'll go through all those things before we actually start the skill. So at least they have been able to verbalize the ability to do those things. Rest and rehab. Usually we're pretty good with the students in regards to this. It's the instructors that fail because they feel like they always got to be doing. And if you don't have enough instructor cadre, then you're going to overwhelm your instructors pretty easily. Other things we're looking for in the students is students that are out of shape, students that when you look at them, you get that gut feeling this is not going to go well. So we're going to keep eyes on those individuals. We're going to keep a close eye on them. And if they need to go take a blow, go through rehab, then that's where we're going to send them. Let's see. And then the other thing we try to do, or the failures that we see, is we see a lot of machismo, especially with younger instructors who don't know how to operate a burn building. Their answer to everything, to a better environment, is to put more fuel in the burn building. And if you remember from the presentation last week with Sam and Nate, even though that was an alcohol fueled fire and it was a scaled down version, they were very easily able to get the fire propagation that they needed simply by choking out the fire or opening and closing compartments. And that's what we're going to work on with you guys, is defining your fuel load set and how to leverage that to your advantage. We've got a pretty good amount of experience with your burn buildings now that you're getting. So we've been able to hone that in quite a bit. One of the things that we're going to advocate for, we'll bring the South Bend one down when we come to your to Crisley. But we're going to bring our burn book, and we recommend that everybody develops a burn book for your training center. So anything that you think that you're going to be able to do in on that live fire training facility, go ahead and build the training plan for it. Build the objectives, build everything out for it, the burn plan, everything. And then when you get to a point where you're like, okay, we're going to do a light fight, we're going to do vent enter search. You go to that book, you pull out the vent enter search, and it tells you how to set everything up. It's got the layout of where the hose lines need to be, whether it's first floor VES, second floor VES, whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, it's already done. The organization has put their stamp of approval on it, and now everybody's got their marching orders. So there's no reason 3 weeks in advance, you don't know how much fuel you need. You don't know what kind of ladders you need, where the hose lines need to be, how many people you need to be able to successfully pull that burn off. And then everything gets filtered into that. So just having a burn book makes things a lot easier and makes it duplicatable so that we get the best learning environment and the best skill acquisition out of it. Communication rules and expectations when you start bringing in people from other areas outside of your organization or your county. Mike's making fun of how I said Chrisney. I think it is. Okay. If I mispronounce your town's name, I apologize. I'm a dumb hillbilly from Southwest Virginia. I don't read good. But anyway, communicating your roles and expectations, communication in general. So how are we going to operate here? Are we going to operate on a set channel with a set communication model, or Is everybody going to be a free-for-all and use whatever terminology they use in their environment? When I first came up in the fire service, we had some firefighters from Louisiana come up and train in our facility in Virginia, that a class I was at, and they were from New Iberia Parish. And if you know anything about New Iberia, it's very much in the deep Cajun Bonton area of Louisiana. So very thick French esque Bobby Boucher kind of accents. And for a bunch of hillbillies out of Southwest Virginia trying to communicate with a bunch of Louisiana Cajun hillbillies, it was incredibly difficult. We didn't talk the same. We didn't, the tempo of how we talked was very different. It was a very difficult training environment because of that. So define that stuff out early on how you're going to communicate, and define those roles, those rules, and those expectations so that everybody is aware before you get there. Talked about the firefighter one skills. And then we got to provide supervision. So nobody acts alone, and everybody's got an instructor attached to their functional group. Documents and organizations that, you know, while they might not be mandates, while they may not be regulatory, they often get referenced when we talk about near misses and line of duty death. In both in the training and operational world. So specifically for training, if you're going to be doing like a vent enter search, one of the things you should do is go back and look at cases where that went wrong. There's very few of them. I think vent enter search is statistically one of the safest. I don't even think I know vent enter search is one of the safest skills that you can complete on the fire ground when it comes to making a rescue. But when done incorrectly, you could put yourself in harm's way relatively quickly. So it's a skill just like anything else. And we can go back and we can look at when those skills were not applied appropriately. And there's tons of near miss reports and NIOSH reports that will help us get a better look into why things went wrong on those particular cases. You're doing the 1403 stuff right now. The 1500 stuff is reciprocal in that regard. But where we really fail and where people will take advantage of us is at the local level. So we have a lot of, within my organization, my training center, I like to operate with my mutual aid companies on a glad hand agreement. I'm not a big paperwork person. I don't want to put a lot of stuff on paper if I don't have to. But I recently had to because one of my partner agencies took advantage of our good nature. We let them use our facility for free. They have carte blanche access to everything within my organization. And I started getting text messages one night of Facebook posts where they were posting about the burn at my facility. And I immediately could tell by the amount of fire blowing out the windows that the fuel load was way too high and likely not compliant with the expectations that we laid upon them. So long conversation had to go take place with the administration of that organization. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it was a $60,000 repair bill that got dumped on my desk. So by having all these expectations clearly defined for anybody who's going to use your facility, you limit that risk. Fire behavior. Again, this is one of the first burns we're going to do with you is the fire behavior burn, where we just get you inside the can, talk through how to do the fire behavior burn, how to control the door, how to get, again, everything's objectively driven. So sometimes, depending on what it is we're trying to do, we'll just have a low and slow burn going for 5 hours. So we'll just keep piling pallets on top of a fire. Nobody's really controlling the door. We're not trying to choke it out. We're not trying to produce smoke. We're not trying to produce too much heat. We're basically just needing the environmental effects. And a little bit of visibility issues. And that could be for a new search drill or something along those lines. As the students get their skill sets improve, then we're going to start producing, you know, a lot more, what I would say, a more IDLH, more dynamic environment, where we're producing a lot more heat, we're producing a lot more black and dark smoke, that milk chocolate smoke rolling out of the training center, zero visibility environment, higher heat environments. And we can do that very easily. But that all starts with those fire behavior burns in the cans. And everything, again, has to be objective driven. Ours, I'm doing a safety officer class right now within my organization. And we talk about the safety officer's role when it comes to doing fire reports. And this bleeds over a little bit into the live fire world. Is the designated safety officer, this is not their job and it's not their responsibility. Within our organization, the way that we operate, both on the fire ground and in the training environment, is we embed safety at the company level. So the company boss or the instructor attached to that company for a live fire training event, they are responsible for maintaining accountability of everybody in their group, and they're responsible for keeping eyes and ears on them. On the incident command side of things, or the double IC side of things, Grady's sitting over here in the double IC, and he's got his worksheet. And he knows that company A has Smith, Davis, Jones, and Rourke as the instructor, and that they're on fire attack. And that group is going to stay together the entire time. So he doesn't have to really track the individuals where they're supposed to be operating. He's just tracking where fire attack is supposed to be operating. And so accountability gets handled that way in my organization. We do the passport system as well. So that is just a backup to our accountability as a scene escalates. We'll go to the sector division group situation where we're utilizing passports. But if nobody's ever used a passport system, you can't expect them to understand how to use that when they come into your facility or even come onto your fireground scene with mutual aid. So there's going to be an educational component when they get there of how that's going to work. Talked about this, the supervisor, the functional group instructor, as it were, is going to be responsible for, again, maintaining the health and safety of their members. They're going to be the ones checking their PPE before they enter that IDLH environment. They're going to be the ones that make sure that they know what their task is and how they're going to accomplish that task. They're going to be the ones that are keeping eyes on those individuals. So if one of them starts to panic in their SCBA or bolts because they have a mask issue, they're going to be the ones that have to communicate that back out, generally speaking. And then once everybody exits, we are really good about this. Once everybody exits, that gets communicated over the radio to the double IC or the incident commander, and then it's denoted on the tactical worksheet. This seems like a very awkward place to be assessing somebody. Looks like they're just in the middle of the fire ground. I don't know, in this, obviously it's a scenario. It looks like they got an injury that they're addressing, but a lot of times in my organization, the people that work underneath me and the ones that are actually doing the work in the training environment, when they see me come around, they know that I'm a little bit of the liability police. And that's just my role within the organization. I need to make sure that things are being done the way that I expect them to be done. And so I'll show up and I'll want to know, you know, if somebody gets hurt, where are you taking them? Where's your medical situation? How is that laid out? How's that going to work? And it's just conversations that I'll have with them just to make sure that they've thought about it and that they're following the script for what they're supposed to be doing. All participants must be assessed for injuries, heat-related emergency signs, symptoms of shock, and at the conclusion of training. This is ongoing. We do this in rehab as well. So we're gonna talk to people, we're gonna have conversations with them, make sure that they don't have any injuries or anything like that to report. It's not gonna be uncommon that you don't get rolled ankles, or that you get some exhaustion, or if, you know, somebody trips and falls, things like that. That's not uncommon. Lower back injuries because they didn't lift appropriately, those are relatively common. Not acceptable, but they're common. And so we want to get ahead of those. We want to get them documented early if they did occur. Because if they go home and, you know, within my organization, we're supposed to report injuries within 24 hours of them occurring. And if it goes outside that 24-hour window, then work comp and HR kind of starts making it a pain in the ass for our people to get treatment and transport, if necessary. So we try to stay ahead of it. We try to document, sometimes a little proactively, in regards to these. So as we're rolling through the summer months, going out here to these burn facilities, 100%, we're gonna have exhaustion issues. We're gonna have dehydration issues. We're gonna have heat-related emergency issues. And you're gonna have to be really tuned in to watching for those things. And usually, you're gonna have to take immediate action when you start seeing in regards to like heat injuries, the loss of coordination. That's kind of my threshold. It's one thing if they need to just go take a blow and get some water, maybe get some food in them, and rest, get cooled down. But the point that they start having coordination issues, that's when we start talking about transportation to a local facility for evaluation. One of the things too that the fire service is not really talking about, and I had a conversation with one of the IFD training battalion chiefs down at FDIC about this, is within my organization, and I know it's occurred with IFD as well. We're starting to see a lot more cases of rhabdomyolysis than we've ever seen before. And, you know, if you don't know what that is, rhabdo is when, generally speaking, people get so dehydrated or they work out so hard that their muscles are killing, the muscle is dying, and it's releasing toxins into the bloodstream. The problem with that becomes that stuff starts to accumulate in the kidneys and can cause kidney failure. So hydration is the key, and making sure that we do good, consistent rehab cycles that everybody goes through. But nationally, we are seeing a trend in increasing cases of rhabdo under high intensity trainings and workouts. So it's something we would need to keep an eye on. We already kind of talked about this. At the conclusion of each evolution, there's going to be a part, you're going to report back to the incident commander, or in the case of training, the IC, that everybody's out, and usually it's fire tech's out with PAR. And that's after you as a functional boss, or functional instructor, functional group instructor, has eyes and ears on everybody. If someone's not accounted for, we immediately have to start looking for these individuals. If nothing else, it really sets the tone on the fire ground for how we're going to handle this kind of stuff. If we allow somebody to be unaccounted for, maybe they dimed out because they were going low on air, or maybe they had an air mask issue or something like that. If they don't communicate that to the group supervisor, the functional instructor for that group, that's a major issue, and that's a correctable on-site issue that we need to address, because it does contribute to the loss of accountability, and it contributes to shutting training down until we get that person accounted for. And it just disrupts the product that we're trying to produce for the day, and ultimately the objectives won't be met. This has occurred with us at a handful of the sites where people have dined out. And we see this more commonly toward the end of the day or after the second evolution, when people aren't necessarily checking their air pack for how much air they have before they go into their third evolution or what have you. And so they're getting, you know, a quarter of the way to the evolution and they start to go on bells and then they just dime out. And that's just unacceptable behavior on any fire ground, let alone the training environment. Once we recognize that that person is unaccounted for, then we're going to start going through our emergency procedures until we locate them. So keep that in mind. It's going to be a big deal. Then the participant comes injured or becomes ill, supervisor shall notify the IC. Yep, that's going to happen. They're going to get taken over to medical and they're going to be evaluated regardless. Doesn't matter if it's an instructor, doesn't matter if it's one of us, doesn't matter if it's somebody for the light and fight. These are non-discussion points. So if this happens, then this shall happen. So if this person gets sick, if this person gets injured, this will happen. It's not up for discussion. It's not up for debate. Here's just an example of something that can go into your burn plan. If you have an injury or an illness, this is like an ACLS flow chart. So does it require immediate attention? Does it not? And then you just follow that all the way down. Generally speaking, these need to be communicated to their home organization and documented within 24 hours. And that includes documentation to the state. I forgot how long you have to actually report fire ground or any occupational injury to the Department of Labor. Is it 48 hours or 24? Maybe it's 24 hours. But that has to get done. So we talked about it already. There's a fire behavior theory exercise. There's a couple different exercises that we're going to briefly talk about. And this is what we've talked about, at the beginning. So we're going to get you in the burn room. We're going to set the building on fire or set the room on fire. This is a good time to talk about fire behavior. So we'll do that with you. Yeah, we know you've already been through a fire behavior lecture. We know that you've already got your fire 1, 2, your instructor 1. Many of you already have your instructor 2. We know this is all old hat stuff for you. But what we want you to see is how that fire control team works well together to get these objectives completed. So at the last burn, I got paired up with somebody on the fire control team that I'd never worked for before. And this individual is incredibly well respected. It was not you. It was Eric Dryman. He's got a podcast with fire engineering. And, I got to be honest, getting paired up with him kind of makes you feel very humble. And so as we're walking in there, hey, Eric, why don't you control the door and I'll do the fire behavior talk. Okay, sounds good. And so he was able to talk about it. And even though we had never worked well or never worked with each other before, because of his experience and my experience, as soon as he went to go do something, I knew exactly why he was doing it. And I was able to communicate that back to the group. So when we got done, he actually came out and made a comment that was one of the better evolutions that he had been through in that regard, because all he had to do was worry about controlling the fire. And he knew that the lecture portion of it was being taken care of. And so we're going to walk you guys through that on how that communication chain works and how it works well for the students. We then can also demonstrate in that IDOH environment how the doors and windows operate. Not only the door containing the fire room, but also the doors and the windows that we're going to manipulate to allow more oxygen to come into that burn can. So in the process of doing that, we're teaching people and the students how to operate those doors in the event of an emergency. They had to actually operate them. We do that in the pre-burn walkthrough, but it's a different cognitive connection when you're doing it in shorts and tennis shoes, walking through a burn building, than it is when you have that discussion under live fire conditions, breathing through an SCBA, wearing gloved hands. So it just fortifies that connection to whatever it is we were trying to talk about in the walkthrough. And then we get to talk about, you know, how do you not burn your stuff up when you're the ignition group? So, how do you position yourself? How often do you rotate? How often do you change positions just so you're not putting, you know, you're not burning up 50% of your turnout gear because you're sitting facing it the same way every single time. Uh, as we advance, into the burn can situation, you know, maybe we'll just do the burn can. Then the next time we do a burn, we might not only do the fire behavior portion of it, but then we start talking about, okay, let's talk about a search drill. We want this victim laying right inside this door in the path of egress. And when the student comes down, I want them to see a very well progressed fire with fire coming across their ceiling, where the intent is that they're going to grab that victim, pull them far enough out of the swing of the door, and then close the door to get them either in an area of protection or to isolate themselves from the fire so they can continue dragging that victim out. So as you're building your burn plan book, these are the types of burns that you can do to kind of build on your objectives and define how, you know, why you're going to do the things that you want to do. Same thing with vertical ventilation burns, and we might combine all of these. We might actually have a search drill with a vertical ventilation drill, and we might hold one of those companies until we see the ventilation group get to a particular point, at which point we'll release the search group to go do their search with the anticipation that the search group will see the benefits of the vertical ventilation, while also getting the fire behavior that we want for that burn. And there's a lot of things that come into play with this kind of stuff. Some of it's luck with timing and everything else. But unless we do it in the theorem area, then we can't be expected to do it in the practicum area for when the students actually come through. Again, everything's going to be objective driven. So when we start talking about multiple companies operating and what we're trying to do for each one of those companies, what is the overall objective? Is this a search drill? Is this an extinguishment drill? If it's an extinguishment drill, everything is built off that extinguishment objective. So if it's a search drill, then everything's going to be built off of that search objective. And like I said, when we bring the burn books down, or the burn book, you'll be able to see how we do that stuff. And again, it opens up the conversation for best practices and standards that would apply in fire suppression activities. And understand this too. We've got some folks here from Evansville, right? Evansville is getting ready to do a huge hiring. They're getting ready to bring on a bunch of people. They're going to have a lot of educational task that they're going to have to put on these new hires to get them ready to go to the street. The best practices and standards that exist for the city of Evansville may not be the same that exist for the city of Elkhart. And so this is where at the local level, you get to really kind of drill down to your organizational operations. That being said, when we do mutual aid trainings or when we have people from multiple agencies, it's a good idea to, unless you're doing a very specific class with a very specific clientele, it's going to be more generic style burns. The different types of training grounds that exist within our state, we have them all. So first and foremost is we have the classroom. We're either sitting in a virtual classroom or some of us are actually in the classroom. This is where we talk about theory. This is where we push out information, and we need to make sure that the student receives that information, understands what it is that we're trying to accomplish, and what it is, and more particularly, what the expectation for them with that information is going to be. So for you guys and this information, some of this is pretty lowbrow stuff. This is easy picking off the fruit tree. But when you start thinking about globally on how you're going to manage your training environment, And for the target audience that you're looking for, hopefully your mind is starting to travel down that path. Or again, you might have a very specific client that is coming into your organization looking for a very specific thing. And that for us, that might be, we do some Mayday training, that is pretty, high risk and I like to equate it to our Indiana River Rescue School. We do some high risk training, but it's a lot of steps that lead up to that to ensure that every one of the students is where they need to be before we put them in that environment. Getting to the actual training ground, there's different types of training grounds that we have within our state. The ones that you're getting are engineered facilities for Class A burns. At my facility they're all engineered. Well, they're not all engineered. I have an engineered facility for a Class A burns in a 2-story residential house. I've got shipping containers that I can do Class A burns in. And then I have a tower that has natural gas props inside of it. And then the other alternative is acquired structures. A prepared training environment or training building or prop. Understand this about these things. I don't care how you prepare them. I don't care what you do. There's absolutely nothing we can do on the training ground that is going to replicate what happens on the street. And that's for a lot of reasons. But at the end of the day, it's because we're starting it. And we have a lot of things that we can and can't do. And so we can't duplicate what's going to happen on the street. So just understand that your training facility is not a place somebody's going to gain experience, but rather it's a place where they're going to gain muscle memory development, and action, to some degree, some decision-making development. But it is a development tool. It is not a place where experience is gained. We talked about policies and procedures for your burn facilities. So this is an example of a concrete tower. This is a Class A tower. Nothing special about it. It's got stairs. It goes up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 floors. And they can set fires in it. I think this particular tower, each floor is just kind of a wide open floor. Not a lot of intricacies inside this tower. This is a engineered concrete tower. A lot of people are building shipping container facilities now, that are a lot more cost friendly, and easier to repair when they get damaged. Having a training site in your back door or out back of the apparatus bay is great because one, you're going to be very familiar with it. So as you develop your experience with that facility, it's going to be a lot easier to set up, and you'll know exactly how much effort it takes to do a burn. Once it's up and running, it says typically no other expenditures other than Class A fuels. That's true. I will tell you, if it's a engineered training facility, regardless if it's, Connex based, shipping container based, or concrete or block. If it's Class A, it has to go through an engineering evaluation every 5 years. If it's Class B, it's got to be every 10 years. And if it's a concrete, then that means taking concrete core samples out of that facility and making sure that the concrete is not getting brittle or starting to spall and get damaged. So there's definitely cost. I don't want you to walk away from this slide thinking we got this training center and now we don't have to worry about any additional expenditures. There's definitively expenditures that come with keeping these things up and running. All of your instructors, this is a pro and a con. All of your instructors and students are going to get very familiar with that facility and that layout. So they're going to start making decisions based on the training center building, because they know where the stairs are, they know where the burn rooms are. Um, excuse me, as opposed to utilizing, uh, sight, sound, and their senses on the fire ground, where you actually have to make determinations, and decide where that fire is, and how you're gonna get there. So, these training buildings will sometimes set your people up for failure. They'll be really good on the training environment, and then they'll just make boneheaded decisions out on the street. And they're often situated in areas away from residential structures, hospitals, other occupancy types, and that goes into the burn plan, or I'm sorry, the burn permitting process. We're not allowed to put burn facilities in areas that's gonna create, a hazard for the public. So, if you got your permit, then you're good. Older towers, so that I'm having to refurb a bunch of stuff in my facility now. It's 10 years old, 11 years old. And we're having to, it's starting to show its age, and we're having to put in, probably 150,000 over the next 2 years just in the maintenance, which, given 11 years, doesn't sound terrible when you talk about, okay, $15,000 a year in an organization my size to keep that thing running. Is certainly a manageable expense, but it has to be, set aside, and it has to be you have to prepare for it. What are you talking about? Jesus. The first couple of the hub and spoke towers that got built, they were built with some half walls in some areas, and they were built with some movable walls and whatnot. And through the relationship that we have with the manufacturer of these things, we've got some of those designs to change. So the fact that you're one of the organizations that's kind of in the second round of deployment, with your hub and spoke, you're getting a better product, than what the first round folks did. And that became issues for us because, with half walls, or with, simulated studded walls, or in the stairwells weren't as sealed up as we wanted them to be, it made it really, really difficult to get some of the product that we were desiring for the objectives we were trying to accomplish. I'm gonna translate that for you because it sounds like a very political way of saying, the buildings were so open, we got too much oxygen and we couldn't choke out the fires. So all we had was almost good free burning fires. And it was really difficult to get, vent limited fires, which is the dark, thick smoke, and a little bit higher heat. So your facilities are gonna be better suited to do that. You can't go anywhere without seeing a couple shipping containers stacked, at a fire department. So, that's cool. That means that they're investing in training, investing in their people. And it's a lot more affordable to do this, on the grassroots level than it is to hire an engineering company, design, fab offsite, bring it in. And then, you've got the crane expense and everything else, and the welders to put it all together. With the burn building that I'm building right now, I got off-duty firefighters coming in and building it. So, shipping containers, are a great foundation for building a training center, and can be done so economically. For all these reasons, easy to set up. It's easy to configure these things. If you burn out one of the cans, you can just pull it out, replace it with a new one. And depending on the shipping industry, I've seen the cans anywhere from $1,700 for a good all-weather 40-footer to, I don't know, $3,700 for the same can. So depending on where the shipping industry is with the amount of these things, it's a supply and demand issue. When there's a lot of them, you can get them cheap, and it's pretty easy to watch the price of these things online. So, and they fluctuate yearly. in pricing. So if you're looking at getting the best bang for your buck, just keep an eye on those pricing, and when they hit the low, buy. And the best part is when you want to dispose of them, you cut them up and you scrap them, and then you get more money for your next one. Cons of shipping containers, this could also be a pro, depending on what it is you're trying to accomplish. Quicker flashover time. They will rust. And if you don't use them, they're going to rust faster than if you do. They hold heat, not as bad as a concrete building, but they'll hold heat, and so it takes a decent amount of water to get them cooled down so that you can start the next burn. And then the only other drawback is, unless you've got a bunch of these that you can stack together and open them up, you get a relatively small environment. You know, they're only 8 feet wide, so you can open them up. The strength is in the rails on the corners. The sheeting in the middle that makes the walls is not load bearing, so you can actually cut all that out to make a bigger environment, a bigger open plan. But it just takes a lot more work to be able to do that. Liquid propane and natural gas towers, pretty straightforward. Listen, I feel ways about things, and I'm going to tell you this about engineered gas fueled props and buildings. They're great if all you want to do is take pictures. They do not duplicate the fire environment, the fireground environment. They are great when you get them. They're turnkey, usually from the manufacturer. So, you know, they install it, they leave, everything works great, and then the electronics start failing. And there's a lot of safeties built into these things, and if one of those safeties is tripped, the entire tower is out of service. I bang my head against the wall managing my Class B tower, and we rarely use it because it is such a finicky pain in the butt. I get to say this because I'm not sponsored by that organization. They used to send people to my facility so that they could, you know, people who were looking to build towers would, you know, come and look at ours. And then I got promoted and I started walking with them and started pointing out all the problems I had with it. They don't utilize our facilities show and tell anymore. So I'm not a big fan of LPG and natural gas facilities, just because they don't do anything well, and they come with a lot of upkeep and a lot of expensive upkeep. So I'll just say that I'm not a big fan. They are environmentally friendly, so if you live in a community that is not going to let you burn and produce a lot of smoke, that might be your only option. They will not burn long enough for the building to really even absorb any heat. So it's evolution after evolution after evolution. That's not a big problem. There's shutoffs everywhere located inside these buildings, so that's usually good in the event that something goes south on them. You can just hit the shutoff and it stops the gas flow, it stops the smoke production, it turns on exhaust fans and evacuates all the smoke and any potential built up gas right out of the building. That is a really good thing. So if things are going south, it's a pain in the butt when you're in the middle of a training and somebody's air pack smacks into one of those safeties and kills your evolution. It's a generally non-combustible steel or concrete. Usually it's always concrete floors inside of them, but it might have steel walls or it could be concrete all the way. And it allows for a safer close-up environment for evaluation of student performance. That's true because there's no real smoke. There's no, you know, even with theatrical smoke, it lays high, and so you can always get underneath it. Or once you fire the prop, it pushes all that theatrical smoke down, and you just stand up and you can see exactly where you're going. I will say we use our LP tower a lot with the high school class, just because it's easy. It requires fewer people to operate, to get it to burn, and they're high school students, so, I feel better about it. Cons, like I said, there's nothing cheap about them. Does not duplicate the fire ground at all. They do not get hot. And, if the system's not working, the tower's 10-7, so. Oh, we're broadcasting the 1403 class, so we got people poking heads in. Acquired structures, listen, these things are great, but you're gonna have to put the work in on the front end. So the permitting process is much more involved. There's a lot of mediation that has to occur and abatement that has to occur with these facilities. Shingles have got to go, lead-based paint has to go, any sort of asbestos or asbestos-like insulation or tile or anything like that has got to be removed, and it's just not good enough that you remove it. It's got to be removed by a certified asbestos abatement company, and all that stuff can bring in cost to getting these things burnable. So at the end of the day, you're burning a real house. So you can reinforce your burn rooms. You can do the same thing that we're going to do with choking fires back at your facility, and we can get really, really good conditions. There's a little bit elevated higher risk with these buildings as well. But if you can get them, if you've got the resources and the time and the individuals to make it a good burn, they are unmatched. Environmental impacts, like I said, IDM is going to be all over you. And Rob and I were just talking earlier today. Was it Maryville? They just had a burn in Maryville, and as they were prepping for the burn, IDM actually showed up just to see how the progression was going on the permit, to make sure that they were doing all the things that they said they were going to do. So it's not uncommon for IDM to show up to your burns, or as you're preparing the building for a burn, just to check in on you. What I will tell you is definitively when IDM showed up at this one, super cool, super cool, super helpful. They're not here to screw any potential training opportunities. And just keep in mind, they're looking at it from largely an environmental impact. So they just want to make sure that you're doing all the things that you said you were going to do. In the state of Indiana, we have to contact, generally speaking, it's going to be the sheriff's office to let them know that we're burning. Now, in my county, the sheriff has identified that he doesn't really care. He just wants us to notify the dispatch center. So we just have to notify the dispatch center, let them know when we're burning, and the time frame that we're going to be burning, and then the address. And then that way, if they start getting phone calls on smoke plumes or something like that, they'll reach out to us on the radio first to see if we're burning. You're going to get rubberneckers. If you're on a major thoroughfare or any sort of street, you're going to get people, clogging the streets. Additionally, your apparatus are going to cause traffic congestion as well. And then, like I said, the prep work is going to be immense. A little bit higher risk of carcinogen exposure to your health and safety. That's true. I don't think there's any debating that. It's a limited opportunity. The building was not designed to be burned. So you're only going to have a set number of burns that you're going to be able to do in that building before it loses its integrity. Some local municipalities may not allow you to do acquired burns, depending on where you live and how things go. I know up here in Northwest Indiana, generally speaking, there's what's it called? When you can't burn anything, a burn ban. There's the burn ban, based on the pollution factors that we have up here in Northwest Indiana. And then, Evansville that area kind of has the same thing. But if you work with IDM, they'll still issue you a permit for fire training. I talked about this stuff already. We haven't talked about gas fed props, not buildings, but, we'll bring props to each one of your sites, so that we can get you signed off on that. Those are great, again, muscle memory development tools, but they're good for your social media engagement, because they look pretty, they look great, especially if you're, you know, taking pictures at night or doing night burns with them. But again, there's nothing about any gas fed prop that is gonna duplicate anything on the street, period, even another gas fed fire. So just keep in mind, they're muscle memory development tools, they're not experience, you're not gonna gain experience working with those things. A lot of your burn buildings have portable walls and door assemblies. We have those for my facility and we actually stopped using them and we started creating, or building actual walls with 2x4s, and anchoring them into the concrete. And then we build plugs that take the place of a door or even a window or block the stairs, to reconfigure, just because, the portable walls that they gave us, they're pressed into place and they weren't holding up as well as what we thought they should have. So we just started building our own walls. Okay, fire extinguishment and overhaul. We don't want to create training scars. So if you're going to be running an extinguishment, evolution, have them put the fire out. And one of the things that's, these cans are really good for that, if you can capture it, is a good teachable moment, is get a thermal imaging camera that will record, set it in the corner of the burn room at the back corner so that you can see the burn room, see the walls and see the ceiling, and then watch how your students apply water coming, as they're advancing in on the fire. So what we don't want to see is we don't want to see any penciling. We don't want to see, short burst. We want to see you start throwing ammunition downrange, throwing your water downrange and making movement in on that fire. And we want to see you cooling the environment as you go. And that thermal imaging camera, if all you're doing is deploying water into the room, that's great. But if somebody comes after them and starts, cooling the environment, then you have a great teachable opportunity there, to show the differences in how that water application, contracted gases inside that can, created some lift. So it makes conditions better for, any victims that you may have, and they're able to advance a little bit faster, generally speaking. When they put the fire out, they're not done. We're gonna start utilizing them to start cooling that room, and get it hopefully cooled down significantly, get the fire totally put out so that when they leave, the backup crew or the truck group, whatever we're designating to do the overhaul, is gonna be able to get in there and get that overhaul conducted and done in a timely manner. And that is what's gonna allow us to do more than, 9 fires in a day. If we come to your facility and we're banging out 9 fires in a day, that's not a bad day. It's not a great day. We've done anywhere from 6 in a day, based on the number of people that we had there, all the way up to 18 fires in a day. So, the faster we can get these things cooled down, get them, the fuel or the pallet remnants pulled out of there and rebuild the set, the more burns we're gonna be able to do. For your buildings, you're not gonna have to be opening up walls and ceilings. That would only be necessary in the, acquired structures. Generally, that's not an issue we have to deal with. Make sure you have a good water source. That's the next lecture. That's what Rob's gonna talk about. And then this one right here in the suburban area, so like the skill that you got, there's some brush that's right up against the building. Is it gonna cause a problem? Is it not gonna cause a problem? Do we need to remove it? Maybe. Is there anything else in the area that could cause us a problem? So is there like an LP gas tank, set either next to the building or away from the building that could take, heat damage? you know, what is around that building, and if it's a heavily vegetated area, maybe we need to build a fire break, so that we can make sure that our training burn doesn't turn into a wildland fire. I have seen this happen on, it wasn't a wooded area, but it was post-harvest for cornfields. And we had a burn, the wind picked up, and we came out of the acquired structure burn and looked into the field. And man, we already had like 6 acres going in 3 different spots. And so we had to, our training burn got turned into a pretty decent cornfield fire. That fortunately we had enough resources there to get a handle on it pretty quick. But I'll be honest, you could have shoved a piece of coal up into one of my orifices and I might have produced a diamond when I came out of that building, because it was not what I wanted to see. Talked about this, talked about shipping containers, the ventilation systems on the engineered buildings. Those are great. Well, like I said, if it's a gas fueled building, or even if it's a container-based building that has smoke blowers and ventilation systems built into it, make sure that you have complete control of it. They can't accidentally get activated during a burn, because it'll ruin your evolution. Gas-fired props, gas-fired buildings, man, all you gotta do is put the fire out, walk out, the building's good. There's usually no need to cool it down. That's that chapter. So we'll take 10 minutes, or actually, let's take 15 minutes. We'll come back at 6:30.
Here we are.
Okay. So, good evening, everybody. Lot of information Brandon's been giving you guys, and, you know, I know you guys been doing a lot of homework and stuff, but, you know, all this stuff it's all fun. And all this live fire, you know, capabilities are fun, but if you don't have water and you don't know what your water flow is gonna be, first and foremost, you gotta figure out where your water's coming from, right? If you have hydrants on your facility, that's great. If you don't, you're gonna have to use either, you know, if there's a pond, you can draft. If like the facility out here at the MAC, it has its own water supply, so it's got its own private water supply. But again, you know, trying to figure out your water is gonna be one thing. We're gonna share a document with you guys that'll help you do your water flow and your water supply for your facilities. Even also helps you with, if you're doing acquired structures, what type of water supply you need for those. So there's a lot of good information on that form that I found it on the internet. It was under Fresno Fire Department, calculating your guidelines for calculating maximum water supply. So it's a really good document, and we will share that with you guys. So we have to identify where our water sources are coming from. So one, do we have enough of it? Is it adequate in our pre-burn plan? So in our burn plan, we should already have set up what our total water supply is gonna be. So when we talk about total water supply, it's gonna be the total amount of water plus 50% of it. Also, is it a reliable water source? So again, you know, the incident, the double IC or the officer in charge shall prepare this in the burn plan. If you have it set up at your facility, nothing should change unless you're doing tanker operations, and then you do get you end up getting hydrants on your facility's grounds. So again, the primary engine and backup engine must secure a continuous water supply from two separate hydrants if it's possible. All right, if not, then are we using a hydrant and a tanker, or are we using a hydrant and a tanker and a water shuttle? So, except for facilities where a water system has been engineered. Well, here at the MAC facility, there's an engineered water supply. So, one of the things that is very important before we do live fire events is making sure that our water supply is adequate and it's working. Was 3 weeks ago, we actually had we were doing all the live fire propane props, and what happened, we lost total we had total loss of our pump. We had water, but we didn't have the desired water we needed to supply our hose line, so actually had to shut down the operations. We had the founder of the MAC facility come out, and he fixed the problem with the issue. It was actually what happened was company came out, was fixing a hydrant, and they actually disconnected it, and we actually lost power. So
I'll go for it. You're far. You missed one.
all right. Sure. Okay, so our backup water supply. Minimum reserve should be 50% of our, for fire flow demand. Must be dependable, to handle the exposure protection or unforeseen situations. Yeah, I realize, you know, guys, we're burning in Conex boxes, I get it, but still, in the standard, it says you have to have 50% more of water supply. So obviously, again, it is important to have an uninterrupted supply in case of a malfunction or a power failure. So again, when we're putting our burn plan together, we have to add, if it's 10,000, we have to have 50% to that, and it has to be readily available. So are we using a municipal hydrant? Primary water source could be underground or it could be surface water. We haven't ran into yet on any of the facilities where we actually use surface water. We didn't have to draft out of a pond or anything, but we had to do some water shuttling and some drafting out of our catch basins that we were using. So the groundwater can can be water wells or water producing springs. Although most water systems are supplied from only one source, there are instances where both sources are used. That does happen. Primary water source comes from surface groundwater. Pump operator will have to establish a draft. So again, I get a lot of people asking me, Grady, you're a city fireman. How the hell do you know how to draft? Well, my father used to pump test all the fire apparatus when we were in volunteer fire department. So he taught me how to draft, and so yeah, I figured ways. And some guys, it's kind of funny, you know, you wouldn't think that we know how to draft, but it is part of, you know, I learned how to do it long time ago. But again, that's one of the things that when we come out to your facility, if we are drafting, we are gonna make sure that, we were in Rushville and we were using, what was that apparatus? Probably like a 1980, something like that. 80 pumper, and that thing pulled the draft like like nothing, easy, simple. But again, we're gonna make sure that we do that, and we're also gonna make sure that we're getting a minimum of 95 gallons a minute out of our 1 3/4 hand lines. And for 2.5 hand lines, we're gonna make sure we're getting 150 gallons per minute. So again, ensure that there's a continuous water source. Some of these water sources, I haven't seen anything like this kind of water source, but again, we could run into something like that. Most situations, training props, and the purpose to build structures designed for training. So have at least one hydrant. And again, a lot of places that we've been going are getting water supplies, so it is nice to have a water supply at your facility. So the instructors should use extreme caution on relying on water tenders. Because again, if we're doing water shuttling, something happens, a primary source of water can run out, right? So we get extra problem, or we have a problem of that tender returning from the fill station to our fire ground. So private water sources, most commonly found in large commercial, industrial, and institutional properties. A lot of times, like this facility here, it has a private water supply, has its own hydrants, and then also may be found in some residential developments. So again, you get some of your private, out by where I live, there is some private residential developments out there. I live in a community where it's kind of interesting that the hydrants that are in my subdivision are only to be used for what they use. They're not supposed to be used for water supply. They're only for flushing. That's it. All right, and which is kind of interesting because I had a house fire in my neighborhood, and I told the guys that were at the fire, I said, just grab that hydrant, just use it. And they said, well, it's for flushing only. I said, it's got water in it, use it. So 3 purposes of it's gonna be fire protection, sanitary purposes, and manufacturing processes. So again, that sanitary purpose is probably why, obviously, you're using the hydrants in my neighborhood for flushing. Private water supplies also are designed for typically similar to a municipal system, must have their own water supply source. Private systems can rely solely on municipal systems as its source are subject to service interruptions if municipal systems experience failure, like a water main break. So again, my facility, which is really interesting, my facility in Gary, I have a hydrant that comes onto my property. It was actually put in, they took it and put it in off of the main, and then I'm responsible for maintenance on it, which is really strange because it was put in by Indiana American Water, and it's painted the same color of Indiana American Water hydrants. But I guess back before I became the chief of training in Gary, there was a handshake or something, and they said that, well, we'll put this hydrant on your property, but you guys have to maintain it. Okay, so now I have a problem with my hydrant, and I have to pay for the cost to get it repaired. So that I didn't know, and neither did the new administration. So they were like, well, what's that gonna cost us? Well, we actually haven't gotten a quote yet to get it fixed, so we haven't been doing any burns. Argument of private water supply. If there is any questions about the reliability of it, or ability to provide adequate water, one of the things we can do is what? Test a hydrant, right? Test it, use a flow meter on it, see what we're getting. Rely on water from a municipal system or draft from a reliable static source close to the training site. Well, if we can do that, I mean, if we can actually accomplish that, that would be good. I know that we did do a relay at a facility. The hydrant was, what, a good thousand feet?
No, yeah, it was at least 1,000.
Yeah, it was at least 1,000 feet from the water source. So again, you know, the water was there, but wasn't reliable. And, you know, we will come out, Brandon will bring out his toys, and we will flow and see what type of water we're getting to make sure that we're in compliance. So think about what are some of our water sources that we use for water supply. How do I identify and calculate the minimum water required for live fire evolutions? All right, so when we talk about this, all right, there's a document that we're going to share to you, and think about your facilities. Okay, your facilities are made out of Connex boxes, right? So it's a Connex box. So it's usually, we're going to talk about the length being 40 feet, okay, the height being 9 feet, and then the width 8.5 feet. So we put that all together, and it's 3,060 square foot, one box. That's one box. So some of you guys, you figure you got 3 on the bottom, okay? You got two on the second floor, and then you may have 2 more on the third. So you're looking at 7 boxes, okay? So 7 times, you figure, even if you got 5 boxes, that's 15,300 square foot would be for that training tower, all right? So when we talk about the construction hazard class number, you look at that, and I'll be honest with you, when I looked at this the first time, I was checking this, looking at this PowerPoint before we started doing this class, and I'm thinking, well, construction hazard, where do I get that, right? Where do I find that? I found it on that document, and we're gonna share that to you, okay? Because if you know the construction class number for the burn building, or the hazard class number for it, okay, the occupancy hazard class, that's gonna help you figure out your maximum water supply. And how do you do that, right? The formula from NFPA 1142. So total water supply, all right? So I wrote down my own little notes. I write down a lot of notes so I don't forget what I'm looking at. But on this document that we're gonna share with you guys, it talks about total volume, which means our total square footage. So today I'm gonna talk about 10,000 square foot. So I have a 10,000 square foot facility, okay? Then I'm gonna talk about the construction hazard class, okay? So the construction hazard class number, and then the occupancy hazard class number. So what we're gonna do is you take the total volume, you take the times, so you take 10,000 times the construction class number, okay? And that would be for a Connex box, which the Connex box would be 0.5, okay? And then the occupancy hazard class is a 5, all right? So you take 10,000 square foot times 0.5, okay, divided by 5, okay? And that gets you your total water supply plus 50%. Does that make sense? And then in that document, it actually tells you that a Connex box is considered a storage facility. All right, so it's considered a storage facility. All right, so they give the hazard class number for a Connex box of 5. All right. And again, we will share that with you. Believe me, it's helped me tremendously write burn plans for people. So again, we take our total water supply plus 50% more. All right. So what you're gonna think is a lot of water really isn't. I mean, again, I look at some of the numbers, and you say to yourself, well, it's gonna be a lot of water. And then you look at it and say, I only need 2,600 gallons of water. Doesn't seem like a whole lot. Well, I always think about this. We're burning pallets and hay, okay, or straw. So if we're burning that, we're not burning anything more than that. All right. And one of the things that, we talk about a lot, and we talk about this a lot in our group, our instructors, with the instructors is, I don't know why you'd want to build some of these, packages so big, because at the end of the day, is it really about that fire? You know, or are we trying to, we're trying to show how cool we are, or how hot it should be, and the reality is, at the end of the day, if somebody ends up getting hurt, they're gonna turn around and look at that double IC, and they're gonna say, well, in your burn plan, it says you're only using 3 pallets, bundle of straw, and half a sheet of OSB in strips. Okay, and if we go over that, and we use more than what we said in our burn plan, you're gonna be held responsible. So I always tell the guys, never go past your professionalism. So whatever you wrote down in your burn plan, follow it. So the instructor in charge, when calculating minimum water supply required for live fire, be in compliance with 1403, okay? So calculating a minimum water flow application for an evolution with 1403, we talk about, and for an 1 3/4 line, I talked about 95 gallons per minute is the minimum. So the flow rate should be 95 gallons per minute. Again, when we come out to your facilities, one of the things we are gonna do is we're gonna make sure that we are flowing at least 95 gallons a minute on an 1 3/4 line for our attack line, at a minimum. And then for our 2.5, it's gonna be 150 gallons per minute. All right, so all backup lines must be equal or greater. All right, so either equal or greater. There are, some of you guys may have 2-inch lines. They actually now make a 2 1/4 line with 2.5-inch couplings. Actually a really nice line, really nice attack line, real easily used. So again, I mean, it's whatever you guys are using at your facilities, but just know that what the minimum requirements are. And I'll be quite honest with you, I have not seen in 1403 or minimum water supply what a 2 1/4 line should be flowing for live fire. I haven't seen that yet, because 2 1/4 is kind of new. You know,
If it's a 2.5-inch nozzle, it's still gonna be 100.
yeah, it's still gonna be 150 feet, so 150 gallons a minute, so that makes sense. So improper, imperative that the pump operator, so this is one of the things that at times we don't think about, okay? We don't think about that pump operator, a lot, and I don't know why, because sometimes when we talk about that, pump operator, obviously, we need to have somebody manning the pump, okay? And you also have to think about our friction loss and everything else, you know, and again, you know, we can talk about friction loss and you know, we can talk about street math and everything else, but one of the things we wanna make sure that we're doing is we really do not know what we're flowing unless we're using a flow meter or a hydraulic calculator or a pump chart. I'm a big fan of the flow meter, okay? Huge, because it's gonna tell me when that line is open, what I'm actually flowing, all right? So, and one of the things that we can't calculate, and this can be an argument all day, is we really don't know what the friction loss is in the pump of the apparatus itself, because of the bends in the piping and stuff like that. So one of the things we take in consideration is we look at our 1 3/4 line, and some guys will say, hey, it's 20 for friction loss in a 100-foot section. So if you have 150 feet, you're looking at 30. Okay, and if your nozzle's 50, then we're looking like 80, 82, some up to 88, depending on, you know, the line itself. But the only way we're really gonna know what we're flowing is if we're using a flow meter or some other type of device to help us tell us what we're actually getting. So flow meters, they're gonna measure, and PSI requires further calculation because it reflects the volume of water and the pressure. So always think about, and I always say this, you know, think about the nozzles you're using. If you're using smooth bore versus fog nozzle versus automatic, whatever you're using, you know, it's fine. I don't get into the debate of smooth bore versus, you know, I just don't. I'm not that guy. I'm not an engine guy, so I don't, as long as water's getting put on the fire, I'm good. But other than that, we do have to figure out what we are flowing now. So flow meters can add insignificant discharge volumes and pressures that are hazardous. We will make you aware of the gallons per minute out of the lines, and relieves you from relying on calculations. So we all know we can always use our fingers and everything else, but in absence of a flow meter, the pump operator should refer to a pump chart if he has a pump chart. I know one of the things that we did when we switched from task force tip nozzles to Elkhart nozzles and we went to 50 PSI nozzles is we had good friend of mine, some of you guys might know who he is, Andy Ploufman came in and we flowed water for hours. It figured out all of our hand lines with the flow. And so all my pump operators, when they open up their engineer door, instead of it opening towards them, it opens away and their pump chart's right there. So they know what they should flow on each line. So again, we know that these things, a lot of times they work well, but when they don't, again, they don't. So always keep in mind, what do we have to go back to, okay? So manual calculators, a lot of times we see, we have these in the rigs and what do we do with them? They're great if you know how to use it. If not, we haven't used it for a while. Where's it at? Buried underneath everything in the compartment. So, but if this is what you use, that's fine. Just, you figure out your hand line, you figure out what your flow is gonna be, and then we check it, make sure that's what we're getting. Electric calculators, again, it's electric, programmed. Tells you each hose line layout, includes the length, diameter of the hose, elevation changes. Again, we always talk about either it's up or down. Think about that basement fires, if we're doing a basement fire from the second floor to the first floor. Or we're going from the third floor down, we're going from the third floor down to the first floor. We have done that evolution before, and that is one where that you're going down to you're going up and then you're going down. So you got pressure going up and you got pressure coming down as you're moving that hand line down. The pump charts are often developed by the fire department. We've done this. Contain information specific to the jurisdictions, equipment, and common hose lays operations. We use what some people call it a yard lay, they call it a skid load. We use those for our long stretches and apartment buildings in some of our areas of the city that have a long, you have a long yard to get to the house. So, and then again, the laminated sheets, I've done this. We figured it out, and also maybe be available by manufacturers, by the equipment manufacturers. I know Task Force Tips used to hand out those charts all the time. Long chart tells you what did you flow with this hand line, okay? But always consider, look, when we're doing this, is our hose. So I'm a true believer, if you buy cheap hose, you're gonna get bad results. If you actually do the homework and pay a little bit extra, and get the hose that fits your department. I mean, I'll tell you, I'm a big key hose guy. I am. And some guys, they may be, another brand, which is fine. But it's been good to us. It's worked for us. And again, you always have to consider, if you're using cheap hose, think about, one, how much is it gonna take to flow through it and what's your friction loss? Your pump charts, they vary. This came right out of the book. So again, and then here's another gallons per minute flow chart using a 2.5 inch hose with friction loss per 100 foot. So again, the manufacturers, they'll tell you what their friction loss is, and a lot of them are close. But again, always use the manufacturer that you're using. I'm not a big fan of using a bunch of different brands together. I'm just not, because again, your friction loss can be different from different manufacturers. Plus, the inside orifice of the hose can be different. The instructor in charge may not have the experience as a pump operator. Okay, well, I would. It is important that person assigned to that vital task have the prerequisite training and the ability to pump. And that's one of the things that, we go to facilities and we've had guys tell us, hey man, if it's got wheels, I can drive it. Okay. And I've had this said to me, and then 2 hours later we ask them, hey man, can you go pump this? Can you go pump that truck for us? And the answer I got was, Well, it's not mine, but I guess I can. Well, if you told me it's got wheels and you can pump it, then, you know, then go pump it. All right, so, and again, that's the thing, is being familiar with your apparatus, being familiar what the apparatus will do. I don't know your apparatus, okay? I don't know it. I mean, yeah, I can get on, you know, get to your pump, get to the pump, get water, everything else. But I didn't know that you had to do a certain thing for the rig to get, you know, go and pump. Like you had to move it forward, you know, 2 feet. You know, I've had that. I mean, I've had rigs take off on me, all right, on the highway, in pump. So, you guys know your apparatus the best. Use your best qualified person. And I always say this, there's always a spot for somebody on a live fire event. We've had some, I could say we've had some good pump operators while we've been at some of these facilities. I mean, absolutely. We had one guy that he's like, hey, I'll pump all weekend for you guys. And he did a phenomenal job. So if you have somebody like that on your department, definitely want to use them. So how is the minimum water flow application rate for live fire evolutions calculated based on hose line capacity? So think about that. So not a very long chapter, but one of these things I'm going to tell you is please reach out. I'd be more than happy to help you with calculating the water supply for your facilities. We will share that document with you. So that, and that document, again, I've used it. It does come from, I did pick it up from, offline. I was looking at, calculating, water flow for 1403, and I found this document. So if you looking at this document, I'm gonna walk up to this document, and it talks about the occupancy hazard class, okay? So when we're looking at our Connex boxes, all right? We look at the Connex box, and over here on this document, it's, if you look under occupancy hazard classification 4, right after that, it says occupancy hazard class 5, cold storage, okay? That's considered a Connex box, it's cold storage, okay? So we would use the 5. For our construction, for our type of construction, it should be type 1, okay? Because there really shouldn't be anything that in the tower, the tower itself doesn't burn. So I would actually use non-combustible because the material inside the container will burn, okay? And that gives it a rate of 0.75. So total construction dimensions, and again, I look at a Connex box as 8.5 feet wide, 9 feet tall, and 40 feet long, or some places have 52-foot Connex boxes. All right. So NFPA 1142 talks about water supply itself. That's actually another good document to look at, because that'll also give you the information that I'm quite sure came to this document right here. So if you look at, go ahead and go up a little bit there.
I mean, down.
Yeah, go down. I'm sorry, not up, down. Sorry, the reverse. So again, formulas right there, formulas for calculating minimum water storage. So you look at here, you got your total, you got your water supply, you got your cubic volume of the structure itself, and always think about the total structure, everything. Okay, so if you got 20-foot Connex boxes, all right, just take all those and add them all up. Okay. So here they used one here that they had a facility that was 89,100 square foot times 0.75
Cubic feet.
cubic feet, I'm sorry, cubic feet. The times 0.75, all right, then their hazard class was, occupancy hazard class was a 6, would equal 11,000 gallons of water of storage they needed. Okay, plus 50. Okay. So it's really, this really helped, I'll be honest with you, this really helped me write a couple of the burn plans we use for acquired structures and for the fixed facility Connex boxes. So it really helped out. So go ahead and go up a little bit there, or down, Brandon, sorry, down.
That's it.
All right, so this document will be on You'll put it on the,
Yeah, I can upload it.
yeah, he's gonna upload it for you guys. You can use it. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to help you guys out with this. And again, it was a document that, you know, a lot of people talk about and they're like, hey, how do you get, I was like, man, so I found this document, I use it, and it's worked out well, so. That's all I have, guys.
Okay, y'all, those are two short chapters. Intentionally, they're short for tonight so that we can talk about some skills, talk about anything that you have questions about. So think about that. We'll be back at 7:10 and we'll open up the online classroom. We'll look at a couple things, and I'll answer any questions that you have. So, we'll be back at 7:10 and we'll wrap up this evening.
So Brandon, I want you to take a look at something. This is you 100%. All right, right here. I'm gonna get you these.
Hold on.
Oh, don't mute it.
Oh, I'm not gonna mute it. It's Grady. It's gonna
Yeah,
be
I
constant.
want to hear your comments about this.
Look at,
They're
We're getting-
No,
amazing.
I already texted him my comments on that because he sent it to me. I'm not gonna wear them because nobody can see them under my boots.
But you'll wear
Maybe we'll
those
paint it
god
on.
awful shorts and socks.
Yeah, we'll paint them onto my boots though.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't fart. My ass likes you so much. It just blew you a kiss. Okay. I gotta tell you, Brandon, I'm really proud of you tonight.
I don't know, I'm muting it now because I don't know what you.
So are they on your time, Brandon?
My time is East Coast time. So they are not on Central Time. So it's currently 8 o'clock.
It's 8 o'clock down there.
Well, it depends. There's people all over TR.
I guess Evansville is in Central Time Zone too, right?
Yeah, they skip around.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
hi, Mike.
Hi, Mike.
I,
This couch got hit pretty good. Oh. Yeah. It was 1 year ago today that the new facility at Wabash was open.
Oh, yeah.
TR, do you happen to have your computer up?
I do.
Can you look and see what the light and fights listed at? How many enrollees?
Yeah, hold on a second. Let me get on to that.
I figured you had your computer on Teams at least, ding dong.
Well, I do.
Mike, he said, so TR said, I said, nice to see you tonight, TR. He says, I've only done this 3 times. I said, well, you need to do it a minimum of 5.
But I agreed, Robert.
Mike, your stepson, canceled training for tomorrow at the CPFDNY.
Which training?
That house they had right there at 231, right by, NDOT,
Oh, by the hospital?
flooded. Cause it rained super hard. And I told them it was gonna do that and it's not gonna be good to do.
775 is still gonna be closed down a little bit, this goes rehanging the power line. They released us, we're gonna clear it like this.
Go, Brandon.
Work with juveniles.
Oh, you love me, you know it.
Sounds like they had a drive-by shooting at Station 2 in South Bend.
What?
I don't think the fire station was the target, but it caused a little bit of chaos about an hour ago.
So what one of your guys do?
That's a question I'm not prepared to answer yet.
Oh, shit. I got 36 in the next to Kettering so far.
Rob, did you go to the meeting earlier at the MAC?
Go ahead. They're still in the meeting, Mike. It's ongoing.
Oh, I meant the building meeting prior to that one.
No, you didn't go.
No, I was, with, Stuart and, Steve and, all those guys, no, they were. Yeah, I don't know what, they were just, I guess they were just talking about the new building they're putting up.
I didn't know if you went to it.
No, I
Did
was
Jeffrey
here.
go- Did Jeffrey go?
He was there for a minute and then they got a bunch of calls and I guess they ended up going to, Couts. Cause, Couts got hit pretty good.
Yeah, I saw they requested a chief from Crown Point and Lowell.
Yeah.
We got about 15,000 electric customers out in NIPSCO area, and then I'm down in Indy, there's I think another 15,000 from Citizens and Duke down here that are out.
It was out here when I got here about just before 4 o'clock.
Mike?
Yeah.
Who?
Oh, God. Okay, so that's a topic we need to talk about, Brandon. We gotta get some people lined up for that. Otherwise, we're gonna be in a world of hurt Sunday.
Yeah, okay.
Well, TR can be a student.
Thanks, Rob.
I love you. Yeah, they're eating pizza over there, Brandon, by the way.
Make sure you guys go sing to Kurt's. It's his birthday.
Oh, that's right, it is his birthday. What's he, 60, what? I think he's like 62, something like that.
I couldn't tell you.
Okay, y'all, it's 8:10 Eastern time, 7:10 Central, so I'm gonna pull up a couple things. I know there was some questions, and I hope we've got most everything figured out. Sorry. I'm gonna share my screen again. Okay, so for the online classroom stuff, is anybody having trouble submitting skills? I think that there was a couple people that reached out, said that they were having some difficulty sharing skills. If you're in, go ahead and pipe up. Let me know what your issues are, or throw it into the chat and we'll see what we can, work out. This one. Okay, I don't see anybody popping anything in the chat or speaking up. There was, I know one question specifically for the walkthrough, the permitting skills, so I'm gonna roll down to it. And I didn't recognize this when I uploaded it. Somehow the file got corrected, but if you go to the acquired structure burn application skill, and you click on that, the original fictitious resource sheet, a lot of it was jumbled up and you couldn't really read it. And basically that's your fictitious, abatement, asbestos abatement contractors, transport contractors, disposal contractors, owner of the house that we're going to burn, and all the pertinent information. So it's going to be really hard for you to do that skill if you couldn't read that stuff. So at the very top, these are put in by order that they were uploaded. So the very top one is a Excel spreadsheet that has each one of those things laid out. And it's a little bit, it'll be easier. You can manipulate the sheet. You can zoom in, you can make the cells bigger or smaller, and you can look at it that way. So it should be up on your screen. Down here at the bottom, you'll see the first page is just one entry. That's the owner, the owner's address, the contact person, which is the owner, their phone number, and their email address. Once you get over here, then this is the asbestos removal companies. These are the people that can come in and abate any asbestos that you would find in that house with all of their pertinent information. So that should be easier to look up. One of the things you'll need for that skill sheet is their license number and their expiration dates. And those are provided here under the asbestos removal tab at the bottom. The next one over is going to be the transporters, the hazardous materials transport companies. Same thing. All of them are located here with their different locations, their contact persons, their telephone numbers, and their emails. These are, again, it's all fictitious information, so don't email them, don't try to call them. But this is just the information you're going to need to fill out that skill sheet. And then same thing again for the disposal sites. So there's, here 5 or 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 disposal sites, one in Anderson, one in Vincennes, one in New Albany, one in Kokomo, and one in Gary. So based on wherever, that building is, you're going to try to pick the most appropriate contractor to get that stuff done. Do I care that if the house is in, if the house had been in Evansville, do I care that you pick a disposal site and a transporter from Gary? No, that's just money that's going to come out of somebody's pocket. So I don't care which ones you use, but I do care that the form gets filled out. Or, I'm sorry, Mike will care that the form gets filled out appropriately. Okay, a couple questions in. So first question was, what were you wanting on skill 4-2? Let me pull that back up. We'll take a quick look at it. So I'll pull up skill 4-2. Chapter 4-2, prepare a written burn plan. Okay, so this is the burn plan that you're gonna have to fill out. And this is basically what we're talking about for the day of burn. So you've got the skill sheet here. I'm gonna pull it up. and it runs through all of this stuff. So what is your objective? We kind of talked about that ad nauseum tonight, and we've talked about it other times. So what is going to be the objective of the burn that you're doing? Probably one of the easiest burn objectives to do is just a firefighter one course burn, or a suppression, extinguishment is the objective. And that's a relatively easy one to build. So you're going to build a burn plan that complies with 1403 and addresses all of these issues. What I can do is I have a ton of burn plans. So what I'll do is I will load a couple of them up here before I leave tonight, and we'll get a couple examples up there for you to refer to. Does that answer your question, RC? Okay, cool. And then you had a second question. It said, can we reload the IDEM skill sheets if it wouldn't load before? I need a little bit more explanation on that. So I don't understand exactly what you're asking on reloading the IDEM skill sheets. And then Jim, I'll upload an example for it too. So yeah, RC, if you could give me a little bit more on that question information page. So I made it up before. Reload the IDEM skill sheet. Yeah, if you made it up before and it satisfies all the needs of the skill sheet, that's fine too. I'm okay with that. The other chat, I think Mike Parks, Operations Section Chief Parks, uploaded a question or a statement. If you guys can't make the skills date for the site that you're affiliated with, you're welcome to come to one of the others. So if you're affiliated with Winchester, but you can't make that one, and you want to come to the one coming up in Crisney, then yeah, just communicate with Mike and we can make that happen so that we can get all your skills banged out. That's not a problem. And then Mike had another comment. Lone Star, which is the contractor for the burn buildings, is saying that components should start arriving by Friday, June 20th through the 22nd. I'm assuming this is for Crisney. Lone Star should be on site this week, June 23rd, arriving Monday with the crane and to lift the boxes into position and start fabrication, and should be done by June 27th. So you guys are going to be moving quick, and within 9 days, that site's going to be done and should be ready to go. So pray for decent weather. Yeah, so when you watch the IDEM video, it seemed to cut in on the middle of him talking. Yeah, the reason we did that is we had some unrelevant conversation where we hadn't seen Brock in a while, so we were just doing some chatter back and forth. So I edited that out. So that's why the IDEM video starts where it does. That was intentional. RC, if you need to redo the skill sheet to make it good, just email it to me and then I'll upload it. That'll make it the easiest way possible. Any other questions from anybody, or Mike, do you want to key up? Oh, Mike had texted me and wanted me to let you guys know too. For Crisney right now, we've only got 2 people registered for the light and fight. We're going to need, Mike, I'd say we need at least 10 if we can get 10 people there. So make sure you guys start reaching out to the community and turn the light and fight. I mean, if you're not going to have 40, 45 people, turn it into a community event for your departments. I love cooking out. I love hot dogs. We can make this thing a little bit more of a social event. If we only get, the fewer amount of people we get, we can make it a little bit more of a social event. However, we still need enough people to make all the skills go through, because that's the skill evaluation day when we evaluate your skills. Mike, is there a minimum that we need for that from your perspective?
No, I would agree. I mean, we gotta have a couple groups to keep things moving. So I would say, 10, 12, 15 is our absolute minimum. We gotta have. Because it's in your guys' best interest, because what we don't want to do is we don't want to make you guys pretend that you're students and also have to be instructors, because you'll get your ass kicked. I mean, it'll just be a horrible weekend. So, the whole intent of bringing a whole nother group of students in is so you guys don't also have to be pretend students. Because if it comes to it, that's what we'll have to do. But again, that will be very exhausting, because you're not going to get the rest rotations that you will, and you're going to be in so many more burns that it's going to be miserable. So again, just really promote that light and fight. It's going to be the Sunday of each of the tentative burn dates that I gave you guys. Again, realize that these are all very tentative because they haven't even built the buildings yet. So that is all dependent on you guys getting your footings and foundations ready for the building and getting Lone Star to get them delivered and get them built. So the dates that I provided are purely tentative for planning purposes. I hope to be able to stick to them, but something could go wrong very easily.
Yeah, so for Patrick, you can do that skill now. You can utilize turnout gear within your organization as you do that in inspection, and a video will satisfy that skill perfectly well. Yep, that'll work. Otherwise, you could do it on paperwork and use pictures of the gear that you went over. So yep, that'll be fine. Mike, do you want to speak to Jim's question? Currently, he says he's an instructor. Is he able to go ahead and take the state test before obtaining instructor 2? Before Mike answers that, I'll say this. Your skills are good for 180 days. So if you can get that instructor 2 within the 180 days, as soon as you get it, then you could take that test. And is that what you agree with that statement, Mike?
Yeah, and I don't think that the test is going to be available. So look, everyone that completes this program and does the skills sheets and gets signed off on everything, everyone will end up having to take the written test. But I don't see any of that even taking place until September, the September board meeting. So if you can get everything in line before September, that would be the easiest thing to do. So. Yes, for the light and fight, anyone that meets the minimum training requirements. So as long as they've had, and Brandon can share this, or we can get it out to you guys, but as long as they've got training in SCBA and PPE and fire, the minimum training that everyone should have, they could still be in a firefighter 1-2 class. They could maybe even, maybe they have an old mandatory cert, but they have all the required training. We'll send that form out to everybody. Anyone that's on your fire department, let's say they've been on the fire department 1 year or 20 years, anyone can come to that day. Anyone can come to that day. We want to get as many people as we can. Like Brandon said, we can make it a fun event too. We can do whatever we need to do to get everyone comfortable and be there. And, the only thing that we ask is, try to get people to commit to the entire day, because if what happened at one of the sites we went to recently, we built all the groups out and we had everything going really well. And then all of a sudden, literally half of the people there said, "Oh, we got to leave." And it really threw us for a loop, because we basically had to start over. We had to regroup and regroup everybody into different groups and divide everybody up. And, yeah, we'll do whatever we got to do, but at least commit to a half a day, and then we could do that as well. But we need to know those kind of things in advance so that we don't have to regroup and start over.
So Matt, I'm assuming that answered your question in regards to, do they have to be actual students or they can be firefighters? Either or, that's fine. Great, we have a few ERs firefighters have seen inside. Yeah. Just make sure that between now and then that they get that they've met those training requirements on like ladders, SCBA usage, hose line management, spraying water. These are all things that you can do on you know, evenings, a couple evenings in your fire department. Yeah, and make sure you document that training as well. Anything else?
I think
I'll get that document out to everybody of what it looks like. I'll get the sponsorship one out and also the minimum training form that you should have. We'll get those posted so you know what that looks like. But basically, just a form saying they've had the minimum training and so they're good to go.
Cool. All right. If nobody has any other questions or anything like that, don't hesitate to reach out. I know Mike's gonna be down at the board meeting tomorrow. I'm going up to Michigan, but I'll have all my laptops and stuff with me. I just won't be distracted from work. So, if you have any questions or anything over the course of the next 3 or 4 days, I should be able to get back to you really quickly. So, if that's it, we'll cut it loose. Everybody have a good weekend. We'll see you next week for the 4th and final night. We'll probably go a little bit longer. Next week, we'll button up the last 2 chapters, and then we're going to go in depth into the logistical needs. Just as a reminder, we kind of hit it on the first day, but we're going to go in depth into the logistical needs for these burns. So next week, you'll be here for the duration. All right. Y'all have a good one.